All right, let's talk about hypnotherapy. And I mean, let's really talk about it. Forget the swinging watches, forget the clucking chickens you see in the movies. We're going to demystify the whole thing and get to the real science behind what is actually a powerful therapeutic tool. We'll break down what it is, how it actually works, and how it can be used to make some real positive changes in your life.
Okay, so let's just dive right in and tackle what probably pops into your head first, thanks to, pop culture. When you hear the word hypnosis, you're probably picturing some stage performer making people do goofy things. But I really want to be clear from the get-go. Clinical hypnotherapy is a completely different universe from that kind of entertainment.
The biggest myth, and honestly it's the one that really stops people from even considering this, is this whole idea of mind control. But the reality? It's the exact opposite. Hypnotherapy is all about collaboration. It's a team effort. A therapist can't make you do a single thing. You have to want to follow their guidance. It only works if you're on board.
And this right here, this is the most crucial point. It's taken straight from a clinical fact sheet given to new clients. You are always in the driver's seat. Think of the therapist more like a guide or maybe a personal trainer for your mind, right? They can show you the exercises, they can cheer you on, but you're the one who's actually doing the lifting.
So another common idea is that you're totally asleep or knocked out, unconscious. And that's just not the case at all. In fact, if you look at the clinical data, something like 90% of people report being completely aware of everything that's happening during a session. You're not out of it. If anything, you're incredibly in it. It's a state of really focused attention.
And this quote just hits the nail on the head. This is exactly why those stage shows can be so misleading. At the end of the day, they're just entertainment, right? They're built on illusion. And unfortunately, those illusions can actually stop people from seeking out a totally safe, really effective therapy that could genuinely help them.
Okay, so if we're throwing out all that fiction, all the mind control stuff, all the stage show silliness, what's left? What are we actually talking about? Let's get into the real science of what clinical hypnosis or hypnotherapy actually is.
Now, I know this sounds a little technical, but let's just break it down. Hypersuggestibility simply means that you're more open to helpful ideas. It's not about being gullible or weak-minded. It's about using your own imagination, with a therapist's guidance, to basically rehearse new, healthier ways of thinking and feeling.
This chart might look a little complex, but it tells a really fascinating story. It shows how our understanding of hypnosis has evolved from, well, magic to science. Way over on the left, you've got these old ideas like mesmerism, which was all about invisible magnetic forces. But as we move to the right, you can see the thinking gets more and more psychological, until we land on the modern, evidence-based, cognitive behavioral model. And that's the key takeaway. Today's clinical hypnosis isn't some mystical thing, it's a scientifically grounded tool.
And, just like any other kind of therapy, it's not a one-size-fits-all situation. There isn't just one single approach. Different schools of thought have popped up over the years, and each one has its own style.
So this chart here breaks down the four main types. You've got traditional hypnosis, which is very direct. Then there's hypnoanalysis, which is a more Freudian approach that's kind of fallen out of favor because of concerns about creating false memories. And then there's Ericksonian, which is much more indirect and conversational. But for our purposes today, we're going to focus on the one with the strongest scientific backing, cognitive behavioral hypnotherapy.
So why this one? Why are we zooming in on HypnoCBT? Well, it's because it combines hypnosis with cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. And CBT is hands down one of the most well-researched, evidence-backed psychotherapies we have, especially when it comes to things like anxiety. And it turns out, adding hypnosis to the mix can make it even more powerful.
Okay, so we know what it is, but what does it actually feel like? And how does this focused state create real, lasting change? Is it some kind of magical trance state you go into?
This is such a key insight. There isn't one single hypnotic feeling. It's not like feeling sleepy or super relaxed, although, that can happen. Hypnosis basically feels like whatever you're focusing on. If you're using your imagination to picture a warm, sunny beach, you're going to feel warm and relaxed. If you're imagining yourself nailing a public speech with total confidence, you're going to feel confident.
So yeah, it's not magic. It's just a structured cognitive process. It all starts with focused attention. Then you add in positive expectation, your own belief that this can actually work. Next, you actively fire up your imagination. And when you combine those three things, they create a real psychological and sometimes even a physical response.
This is probably the most important question of all, right? The so what? What is this actually used for? How does it help people with real-world problems?
Well, the applications are pretty broad, actually. It's especially effective for issues that are rooted in our habits of thought and behavior. So we're talking about things like managing stress and anxiety, breaking unhelpful habits like nail biting, building confidence for stuff like public speaking, and even helping with the psychological side of physical conditions like chronic pain or IBS.
And here's a huge benefit. It's designed to be a brief, focused therapy. So unlike some kinds of therapy that can go on for years and years, the goal here is to give you the skills you need in a pretty short amount of time.
Now, it's so important to remember this. While HypnoCBT is a really powerful tool, it is not a magic wand. It absolutely has to be used responsibly by a qualified and trained professional who can actually tailor the whole approach to your specific situation and your specific needs.
So, we'll leave you with this final thought. We've talked a lot about how suggestion works in a therapy session, but take a second and think about the suggestions you give yourself every single day. The worries, the self-criticism, all those limiting beliefs. This therapy really shines a light on just how powerful our own minds can be, for better or for worse. The real question is, how are you choosing to use that power?